On this week's episode of Introverse Uncharted, your alarm goes off. Instantly in the pit of your gut, you feel that dread creeping in. Yeah, you got bills to pay, but you also really don't enjoy your job that much. Your boss has been nagging you and nagging you, asking you to stay late, trying to have you do things that aren't really in your job description. You want to quit, but you feel deep down inside like you can't do better. Other companies won't pay you what you're worth. And that maybe every job will just end up being like this job. On this week's episode of Introverse Uncharted, we talk about ownership and their behavior towards you, their staff. Hello, all, and welcome back to Introverse Uncharted, the show that aims to remove the gravity from your world and send you on a journey through the stars. As always, my name is John, and I will be your guide into the Introverse today. Happy Friday, everybody. Coming to you again on a little bit of a different day. I, as always, intended on having an episode ready on Wednesday, and life just kind of caught up. I had some stuff going on. I was a little bit busy. On top of that, I mean, again, I know everybody kind of has these days and these times, but the last couple days I've just been feeling kind of down and not very motivated. Coming up with an episode was particularly hard this week, at least for like quality content. You know, I could have come in here and just spouted some nonsense, but I always try to make sure that what I'm giving you guys is something that I would listen to. So I'm sorry that there wasn't a Wednesday episode, but I'm happy that you guys are here on a Friday, which means you guys have made it to the end of the week, which, as always, means stiff drinks are probably in order, right? Whether or not you had an easy week, the boss was nice, didn't have a crazy workload, your phone wasn't getting blown up, you don't have 1,000 emails, a pretty easygoing week. If you had a pretty easygoing week, you still probably need a stiff drink. You earned it. You worked your way through it. And if you had a tough week, the boss never, ever left you alone. You were getting blown up on your phone, texts, calls, all sorts of stuff. Your boss was asking you to stay late to cover because, this guy didn't come in for his shift this week or whatever. Then you also earned a stiff drink for not losing your mind on your boss. I'm proud of you. If you did lose your mind, been there. Totally get it. Stiff drinks may be in order. I'm happy that you guys are here, and as always, we are going to start this thing off with a touch of housekeeping. In case you've never seen the show before, I always try to inform people that this is an amateur podcast. I am literally doing this out of my home office, and there's a chance to hear some stuff. Right now, the lawn crew in my apartment complex is out there working, so you might hear a lawnmower. My kid is around, my dogs, all sorts of stuff. So hopefully none of that bugs you guys too much, and I apologize in advance if you hear any unnecessary background noise. Not a whole lot I can do about it, but just wanted to get that off the table. Where else can you find some more Introverse Uncharted content? As always, guys, TikTok. I try to TikTok every day, if not every other day. So go over and check me out on TikTok. I'm at Introverse_Uncharted. Instagram, you can find updates on when episodes are going to be posted and stuff like that, what the episode is going to be about. Over on Instagram, I'm at Introverse_Uncharted13 on Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm just at Introverse Uncharted. And on that Facebook page, I do similar things to what I do on Instagram, which is just kind of telling you guys exactly what is going on and when I'm going to have episodes posted and stuff of that nature. All right. Now that we got through all of the stuff that we have to get through, let's talk about the pre-flight checks. We always got those pre-flight checks that we have to take care of. So, Starship. Finally, we can talk a little bit more about Starship. I've been chomping at the bit to bring you some more Starship. They have selected Booster 9 and Ship 25 for the next test flight, which we are inching closer and closer to. Elon said he thinks within the next month all of the launch mount fixes will be done, and they'll be ready to go again. Ship 25 is officially at the OLM, at the Orbital Launch Mount, which they are still working on. It's not up in the air yet. It's kind of up in the air. It's hanging, but it's not in the launch mount yet. They have it over there, though. I assume that they're going to do a static fire test and stuff like that, too, as they get closer, especially with the Raptor engines, to make sure that we don't have any crazy outages like we did last time. But we're seeing progress. They have the water-cooled plate installed. Elon is positive that'll change some of the thrust factor and the debris factor coming from the launch. And we got ships selected, boosters selected, and movement happening at the launch facility in Boca Chica, Texas. We are all pumped. Let's keep it going. Let's get ready for another big Starship launch. I was going to be pumped if they got it to us before Christmas, and it looks like they are going to do that. It's going to be cool to see 2 Starship launches this year if things keep going on the track that they're currently on. There's that. 2. The Nuggets versus the Heat Game 1 of the NBA Finals happened last night, and the Nuggets rocked the Heat night 1. I don't like being superstitious. I'm a superstitious guy. I don't like being superstitious, but I am. So I'm not going to boast a whole lot as a guy who's cheering for the Nuggets right now, but it looked good. Got off to a hot start. The Heat didn't have a whole lot of rest between games and travel before this game, and Jokic and the Nuggets got off to an amazing start with a win. 3 more to go to the championship, and hopefully we can get there. Never count out the Heat, They had a 3-0 lead on the Celtics. They blew it, and they got back to 3-3, and they squeaked it out in Game 7. You can't ever count them out. They can do it. They can run it to Game 7. But good luck to the Nuggets, and awesome win yesterday. Let's keep momentum rolling forward. For those of you who watch my channel who are NASCAR fans, it's probably few and far between. I know that fan base is kind of up and down depending on politics and all sorts of nonsense. I still like watching for the races and for the crashes and stuff like that. I try to not let the political affiliations of drivers and fans interfere in my enjoyment of motorsports. So NASCAR news this week. Chase Elliott of the 9-car Hendricks Motorsports has been suspended 1 race for intentionally wrecking Denny Hamlin during the Coke 600. Denny ran him high coming out of the last turn. Chase was too high, ran out of room, ran into the wall, and felt that Denny had wronged him. And he spun him out and put him into the wall at 180 miles an hour. It was a pretty vicious crash. The onboard camera in slow motion shows Denny bobbling around really fast in slow motion. So I can only imagine what that felt like in real time at real speed. Previously, drivers have been suspended for similar things. Bubba Wallace, who is a notably political figure of NASCAR, and is currently probably the most disliked driver that they have, wrecked Kyle Larson last year. Same thing, ran out of room, got mad, spun him out, and then got in a fist fight with him in the infield. There was no fist fight this time, but drivers need to know that intentionally wrecking somebody, hooking them in the right rear and just putting them into the wall at 180 miles an hour is dangerous. It can hurt somebody, it can even kill them, and we don't need that to happen in the sport. So the suspension at least is consistent. Bubba Wallace received a 1-race suspension for the same thing last season. Chase Elliott receives a 1-race suspension, and Corey LaJoie will be filling into the 9-car this week. I don't know, man. I saw a lot of people. NASCAR social media is always even if you're not a NASCAR fan, just go to NASCAR social media and go into the comments. The comment section is always infuriatingly ridiculous. But there are a lot of people who think that it's nonsense that Chase got suspended for it. Chase is NASCAR's most popular driver by far. So I think that fans think that his popularity should outweigh his decision making, and he put a driver in a dangerous situation, and he should be suspended for that. People keep saying Denny has done similar things in previous weeks. I know that he spun out, I think it was Ross Chastain, to win a race not too long ago. It's not the same situation. It wasn't as vicious. It wasn't as, malicious. And we've seen plenty of drivers get wrecked on the last lap for a win. This was not the last lap. This was fairly early in the race. And if you're going to say that Denny's thing was as malicious as Chase Elliott's, or as Bubba Wallace's, or whatever, then he should have gotten suspended too. The punishment has to fit uniform every single time. And that's every sport. If you are caught doing something you shouldn't be doing, the punishment needs to be uniform no matter who you are, no matter who your owner is, whatever. You shouldn't, the punishment needs to fit the crime, and it needs to be consistent every single time. As far as I have seen, this feels consistent. I think it'll weigh into whether or not Chase can win a championship. He had missed a lot of the season due to a snowboarding accident early in the year. He submitted a waiver to NASCAR so that he could still participate in the playoffs. He's a lot of points behind, so he would have to win either way, but now he's missing another race. I think if you miss this many races, arguably you should be disqualified from championship contention. The only argument I've ever seen differently is Kyle Busch missed, 12 races a handful of years ago with a broken leg and still was eligible to go into the championship. But I think he won the championship that year. But if you're missing races, if you're not full-time, you shouldn't be able to be in the championship contention. I don't think. Especially, stuff like a snowboarding accident, stuff like that. He's not taking his gig seriously. He's getting injured off the track, and, that cost him. That should cost you. I would lose money if I didn't show up to work or whatever because I got injured doing something in my free time. It should cost athletes as well. So I feel pretty split about it, but I think Chase shouldn't be able to get a championship this year, run for a championship. But, like I said, the punishment needs to fit the crime, and I feel like in this situation, it ultimately does. All right, kind of out of that, I do want to say just this last Monday was Memorial Day. I want to say happy Memorial Day, happy late Memorial Day to all you guys. And thank you to those of you who serve, who have served in the past, and to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our nation's freedom. It does not go unnoticed. We get a lot of cool opportunities and a lot of cool stuff in the United States, and it wouldn't be possible without all of you men and women in uniform. So thank you guys so much for what you do. It makes it possible for me to be able to do this. I know the political climate in the United States is an absolute dumpster fire right now, especially to the rest of the world. But I don't know that I would trade the freedom that this country has for anything else. And again, thank you to all of you who serve, who have served, and who have passed away defending the freedoms that we so enjoy. With that being said, I also want to wish everybody a happy Pride Month. I know that that's not the most accepted concept in the world right now. This comes from zero political background, okay? I'm not political. I don't like talking politics, so I'm not going to. So, I just want to say happy Pride Month to everybody, and I'm going to leave it at that. Everybody, political backgrounds, gender, race, whatever. Everybody will always be accepted here on Introverse Uncharted because I said so. That's going to be the gig. I love everybody. Everybody is great. I want you guys to all be here and to feel safe being here so we can talk about absolute nonsense, okay? This isn't serious. It's not political. Happy Pride Month. I hope everybody is doing great out there, no matter who you are, no matter your age, your race, your sexual orientation, your gender. I don't care. I hope you're all doing great, and that's what matters. And with that being said, let's get into ignition.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right. Let's get into what we are going to be talking about today. But to do that, let's just kind of summarize real quick what we talked about last week, okay? So last week, I dug into the feelings, to the emotions that I have pent up for a long time as a service industry employee, and we talked about how customers, behave towards restaurants and towards their staff. Sometimes the abusive behavior, and the abusive behavior, I said in that video, can go both ways, where customers can be abusive to restaurants and their staff, but staff also, I have seen, be abusive towards their customer base. And I said in that video that I would talk at some point about the opposite effect of like ownership's behavior towards their employees. And that's what we're going to get into this week. Is I'm going to dig back down into my gut, and we're going to talk about how ownership behaves towards their employees. This will go, I mean, I've told you guys before my background in restaurants. I have a culinary degree, but I've worked a long time for Red Robin, which is corporate. I worked for Burger King, which is corporate. I worked for Noodles and Company, which is corporate. And then I worked for, I've worked for Whole Foods, and I've worked for a seafood restaurant, which no longer is around. And I did a mom and pop brewery for a very long time. We're going to talk about, what we're going to talk about today is going to be kind of umbrella. It's going to cover a lot of those places, and I'm going to cater it to my experiences in those places. But we're going to talk today about how ownership treats its staff. And I say ownership, but in places like Red Robin, it's going to be upper management. It's going to be all-encompassing. You're a regular, basic employee doing something, or a shift supervisor or whatever. And we're talking about the people that are above that. The not normal people, the not people that you're generally hanging out with, because that's fraternizing and stuff like that. We're talking about the upper, your bosses, okay? That's what we're talking about. In an ideal world, okay, let's start with that. In an ideal world scenario, ownership and employees should be working completely symbiotically, okay? Everything should flow together and create this perfectly functioning ecosystem where, in corporate, you have people in the corporate office that are sending information down to the restaurant level. That information is being sparsely placed throughout the restaurant the way it needs to go, and those actions are being taken appropriately by staff members. Money is flowing in. You are getting paid as an employee, and the world keeps spinning round and round and round. Okay, that's ideally in a mom and pop situation. If you know your owners, you should be able to communicate with them. You then communicate with the rest of your team or whatever it is that's happening, and then again, money is coming in. You're selling things. It's just, the world keeps on a turning, okay? That is the ideal situation. From my experience, it rarely goes according to plan, okay? There has always been an ego, I think, of upper management and of ownership, where they are impervious to advice, they are impervious to others' experiences, and they're very set in ways. And a lot of times, especially if you're talking mom and pops, once they kind of get in a comfort zone, whether that's with policy, whether that's with employees, whether that's with menu items, whatever, it's hard to break them from the box, which is frustrating if you're just a staff member, right? Reality says that jobs are rarely as democratic as you would like them to be. Rarely is it a true open forum for you to just go to your boss, go to your ownership, pitch them all the things that you think would help, and have even one of those things actually make a difference to the day-to-day. It does happen. There are people, obviously, within every company who are trusted to make decisions, who are not managers and all of that kind of stuff. But from experience, like at Red Robin, if I just went to my boss and was like, this would make life easier, they're not going to do it because it doesn't pass through the corporate chain. And if they did want to try to do it, they then have to toss it up the ladder and hope that somebody in corporate catches it and likes it and then sends it back down as a mandated policy or whatever. So rarely it doesn't happen. That's a pain, right? That's a pain in the neck. I don't want to have to go through that process. Okay. Jobs don't... It is shocking at times how little people above the regular employees actually care about the functionality. They more just look at the bottom line, which is what business is about, right? The bottom line. You want to make money. I want to make money too. So if you're making money as a company and I work for you, I'm making money, and the world again just keeps flowing. But having voices go unheard is hands down what I've seen to be the biggest morale buster in business. Okay, if I've worked for your company, Red Robin, I worked for Red Robin for over 5 years. Okay, not quite 6, but over 5. And in that time, I never felt like my opinion mattered, because they have a whole corporate office full of people that they have deemed to be professionals in what they're doing, telling us in waterfall form, waterfalls travel one direction, right? In waterfall form, what to do. And if you try to send something back up a waterfall, and it's just not going to work, right? So nothing I ever suggested ever happened in my specific Red Robin locations that I worked for. And I worked with people on the line, grunt work style, like pirates, like I said in a previous episode, who had way better ideas than me, and those ideas didn't get listened to either, because their structure and their system is set the way that they want it to be set, and they don't want to break out of that. And no matter what experience you have, the experience of the person behind the desk who's emailing down this protocol apparently outweighs that. I will hazard a guess that a lot of those decisions that come down the waterfall aren't by people who have ever actually worked on the line. Now, when I worked at Red Robin, they used to have a thing that they called a day in the life, where corporate people would come down and have to work a specific number of shifts on the line or in specific locations of the restaurant in specific positions so that they understand what it is we do. But what I'm going to say is, like, there's 3 stations on the main line at Red Robin. There's a hot side, which handles your burgers. There's a saute, which I think saute has kind of been written out now that they do pizzas. They didn't do pizzas when I worked there, but they had a saute position, which did like kids' foods and soups and eggs for burgers, stuff like that. And then cold side did salads and desserts and wraps and the fried foods. Just doing one day in each of those positions, that's going to be my example, because I rarely saw a corporate person do one day in each position. But doing one, let's say you did 3 total days, 1 in each position, that still doesn't tell you exactly. It's the undercover boss thing, right? Like, just doing one day, I'll show you little things that you're probably missing. It'll show you conflicts and issues within the environment or within the system, but not on a deep scale. You're not going to get a ton of rock solid information out of 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. It's just not a lot of time. It's not a lot of exposure to what's happening. And they're not sending in corporate people for a day in the life on a Friday. So they're not seeing us in the weeds just getting railed for, 3.5 hours on a Friday evening. They're not seeing that. The waterfall effect only works if you understand what is happening at the bottom of the waterfall. And corporate and ownership don't always know or understand what you're going through on the frontline employees level. So it's really tough to keep positive morale when your voice is being shushed by people who don't know how you do your day-to-day job, and who couldn't step into your role if you were gone in order to, if I quit, they're not coming down from corporate and taking off their tie and jumping onto cold side. That's not going to happen. They're not going to do that. They don't understand. And when they don't understand, a lot of times the stuff that comes down the waterfall makes absolutely no sense. when you could take advice from the line trained pirates, some of which I worked with people at Red Robin who had worked there for over 20 years, who probably understood the system more so than your average district manager. You could take advice from people who actually do the work, and that will not only boost morale, but you might see some consistency where you wouldn't have seen it from an unexperienced decision maker, right? I feel like jobs, especially when you're talking in the service industry, operate on an overworked and underpaid mentality. If I had a nickel for every time in my life somebody said they were overworked and underpaid, this office would look a lot nicer. I have heard it. I have said it. I've absolutely said it. I've done the 60, 70, 80 hour weeks at nonsense pay rates and just felt defeated. Overworked and underpaid is the pirate's life of line work, especially in corporate restaurants. It is the way in mom and pops too. I'll get to it. But corporate restaurants, they have a budget, they have a structure, they have a raise cap and all that kind of stuff. So you just kind of get glass ceilinged at some point. And it doesn't, just because you've reached the glass ceiling of pay doesn't mean you've reached the glass ceiling of the work that needs to get done. And the work a lot of times doesn't change and it doesn't go away. And it is a pain in the butt to balance your mental health and your physical health to what you're being paid and what you're being asked to accomplish in your job. Owners want the maximum output of their staff. Owners and management, they want the maximum output that you, the hardworking, knuckled-in hourly employee, can give. But they don't want to have a high labor cost because of that. So they're going to put you on time scales and they're going to try to beat the productivity out of you, but within their time frame. I've worked for a lot of places that don't allow you to hit overtime, and if you do, you're getting phone calls and text messages from upper management, or you're getting, if you're at Red Robin or whatever, you're just getting pulled aside and being told that you have to be gone at a certain time, or you need to take your lunches and all that kind of stuff, even if you don't have the time in the day to sit down and enjoy an actual lunch or something. I've seen it in plenty of places. The structure is maximum output for the least amount of labor cost, and that is going to be the absolute downfall of the structure. Okay, you can't expect me to do 80 hours worth of work in 40 hours or 65 hours worth of work in 40 hours. It doesn't happen. And if you're a part-timer, a lot of times it's kind of worse for you, right? Because I think now part-time is like 32 hours and under is what the Obama administration had classified as part-time. So let's even say that 32 hours is part-time. Sure, that's fine. But it's hard to get 40 hours worth of work done in 32 hours, obviously. It's not, this isn't flat rate auto mechanic world where you can have a job that says it takes you 6 hours and it doesn't actually take you that long, but you still get paid it doesn't happen. That is not, flat rate structure is not the same as restaurant structure. I wish it was. That'd be incredible, but it's not. It's being asked to cram is absolutely stressful, which, don't get me wrong, jobs a lot of times operate on stress. I know very few people who work and feel no stress, okay? And if you do, congratulations. That's awesome. I wish that was real life for everybody, where you could just go to work and everything is just kind of on an even keel and it's not crazy and everything functions the way it should function and all of the good stuff. But overworked and underpaid, the most for the least, is the generic structure of most service and retail-based jobs I have ever actually seen. And it is sad. It is sad because I see a lot of people, and myself, I was definitely a part of this, right? Who they come in and they tighten the belts and they're ready to go. The gloves are on. They're rock solid employees and they just want to do their best and get an honest paycheck out of it and feel pride in what they're doing. That's 100% what I try to do, especially in restaurant work. If you go to new restaurants, you get a new job or whatever, you go in and you tighten the belt and everything is, gloves go on, it's time for business. And you try to get into that mentality that you need to learn this stuff and you need to do the best you can. And just be proud of the product that you're doing. Food is an area where you should always try to be proud of what you're doing. Because you don't want to serve somebody something you're not proud of. And you don't want to serve somebody something you wouldn't consume yourself. Okay? That's the gig. Stress from being asked to do an absolute ton of things in a very small amount of time will destroy the best quality employee. If you have worked your way up to, let's just even say a shift supervisor, and all of a sudden you have, actual ownership and management flushing information into you, it becomes very hard to not feel stressed, right? Because they're going to tell you the good, but they're also going to tell you the bad. And when you get in all of this information and you have to divulge it to your staff, which can go exceedingly wrong, depending on what you're talking about. I don't know if you've ever ticked off a coworker because you were told some stuff by people above you that is happening beneath you, and you have to pass that message along. Nothing like having the messenger get shot at, but it happens all the time. Stress will destroy the hardest working employees. The people that you can think of right now, if you work a service job or a retail job, the people that you can think of right now who do the best job, they have a lot of stress on them, likely. And if they don't, it's because they're not in a position where they have to deal with a lot of nonsense. But if they're amazing employees, they carry a lot of weight on their shoulders, and that stuff all stacks up and adds up to be stress. If you're not in the proper environment, if you don't have the proper amount of help, or right staffing, all this stuff. And stress will break you down at your foundation to where it's like I said in the open, right? To where the alarm goes off, and the second the alarm goes off, you feel it in the pit of your stomach that, oh no, I have to go do this again. And you start to feel that dread, and as days go by, the dread gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse, unless drastic changes happen to take that stress off of you. But as long as you're stressing, and as long as the day is hard, you are slowly breaking at the foundation, and the foundation that you came in with is what I was just talking about. That rock solid mentality of putting the gloves on and knuckling in and being the best that you can be. I'm going to use a pro wrestling reference here. So for those of you who don't watch pro wrestling, I apologize. But Stone Cold Steve Austin used to say that if you weren't in wrestling to become the world champion, then you were wasting your time. The same should be said in every job. If you're not in, if I'm a cook and I'm not in it to be the guy, to be the boss, to be the executive chef, then I shouldn't even be there. You shouldn't just be working just to get by. You want to be the best you can. You want to make the most amount of money you can. And you want to just be the best. If you're cool being the follower, then that's fine. But most people that I know want to grab at the brass ring. They want to be the best. When you go through that line of employees, you want to be the one that they're like, that person will get it done. And they will get it done right. And they will get it done in a timely manner. And they earn the pay that they get. You should want to be on that scale. 100% you should want to be on that scale. If you are not in this to be the champion, then you're in the wrong game. Okay? If stress is eroding at your foundation, then you're not going to be grabbing for the brass ring. But what I'm going to tell you, this is the sad part. Don't lose any sleep. Don't lose sleep over stressing. Don't lose sleep over what the physical job does. None of that. Don't do it. If you are losing sleep, you're just draining away at yourself. And the reason I say don't lose any sleep is because you are replaceable. It's something that ownership and stuff won't say to you, but it is a fact. You are replaceable, whether or not you think you are or not. There have been plenty of jobs that I have left just because I was burnt out, just done. And on my way out the door, that very last time, I said, good luck, because you're not going to find somebody who does it like me. Which, maybe that's true, right? Maybe that's true. Maybe they won't find somebody who will do it like me, but they will find somebody to do it for me, and they might get paid less than I do, because that's the budgetary fluctuation of hiring in new bodies. You are replaceable. And if you think that your owner or your manager will lose sleep over you not being there, over you quitting, you're wrong. They might briefly, right? Like if you work in a mom and pop restaurant, like the one I just came out of, where you have 3 total people in your kitchen, they're not very trained and stuff like that, and the best person just up and quits, yeah, there might be some sleep lost for a week, right? But once they start to fill in bodies, it just goes away, because that is the supplementation. They just need to find employees to fill that spot, and right like that, they sleep at night again. I'm sorry if that hurts some people's feelings. It hurts my feelings. It hurts my feelings that I am replaceable when I feel like I do amazing work. When I dial in, when I put the gloves on, when I come in and I clock in, that's my gig. That's what I'm doing, and I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to grab the brass ring. I'm going to be the champion. And the fact that that can all be changed within a week, that's sad. It's sad that if I quit today, by tomorrow they could hire somebody cheaper who's just going to do my job, and just like that, everything you've ever done or everything I've ever done goes away. So, that's sad. It's tough. But it's real life. It is reality to the situation. I asked this question on the last episode when we were talking about customers and their behaviors towards staff and restaurants and stuff like that. Did COVID shift the momentum of this dynamic? And the answer in this scenario is 1,000% yes. Yes. It did. I said this in the last video, but there were situations when I worked for like Burger King and stuff like that where 103 fever and I'm calling out, and what I'm being told is you're screwing over your team. That was acceptable behavior 5 years ago. That was acceptable behavior. That was acceptable for you as a manager or as an owner or as a general manager or whatever. You could say that to your staff and try to guilt them into coming in sick because you didn't want to cover them, or you didn't want to have to do the legwork, or you didn't want to throw on gloves and actually cook a burger, whatever. That was acceptable behavior. But now, employee health finally matters. It finally matters. You can call in, and there is so little that they can do about it because you're now protected. COVID helped protect the everyday hourly worker from being ostracized for being sick, for being told that they're screwing over their team. Let me tell you, now if I call in sick and you tell me I'm screwing over my team, I'm looking for another job because you don't value my health. You as the employer don't care that I'm not feeling well when I'm the guy who does all the hard work. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to find a company that does value my body and my health so that when I am there, I can give you 100%. Because if I'm not at 100% physically, if I'm not at 100% mentally, I can't give you 100%. It's just not there. The math doesn't add up. If you're running at 75%, how are you giving 100? How does that work? It's the expectation. It's not reality. It is not reality. Employee health finally matters thanks to COVID. And there's a whole generation of people, again, not to be political, but there's a whole generation of people who think that you should have to suck it up and pull the bootstraps tight, and throw the gloves on and give 100% if you're only running at 45%. And that generation, I live with people in that generation. That generation is damaged. It has beaten itself. It has destroyed its body. It has destroyed its mind to the point where they're almost robotic. I have to work at all times, even if I'm dying, which is reality. I have a father who has cancer. He doesn't let off. He doesn't let off the gas. He will work until the day he dies. I am firmly a believer that he will do it. His generation did that. They knuckled in. I think I've seen the guy take 5 sick days in the 27 years I've been alive. He doesn't do it. He will fake it until he makes it. He will take 80 different drugs and just null the symptoms for a day and go. He doesn't have to. He does it because that generation was made to not feel anything, to not have emotions, to not let that stuff take away from earning your paycheck. Now, you can take time off and get paid to take time off in a lot of instances because COVID kicked the door open for our health as base frontline working employees to matter. It does matter. Like I said, I can't give you 100% if I'm only functioning at 70%. It needed to be more acceptable a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. It needed to be more acceptable for you to not feel well and to take time to feel better. I don't mean like, oh man, I gotta take a week off, I'm just not feeling it. I don't mean that. I mean, you wake up with a fever, you shouldn't be in grinding. Because if you're in grinding, you're also passing whatever you have to other workers. Give a crap about your coworkers. And about, especially if you're in food, you shouldn't be sick touching food because then the people that you're serving are going to catch it. That's a health code violation. That is the breaking of the unspoken code that you don't do harm to other. It's doctors have the oath, the Hippocratic oath, like you don't do harm. And if you know you're sick, you shouldn't be touching their burger. It is sad that we have tried to coerce generations starting before my father's generation. My father was born in 1960. Before the baby boomers, we started having this I need to knuckle in at all times thought process to make money, whether I'm sick, whether I'm dying. I need to knuckle in no matter what the cost so that I can pay for my life or pay for whatever. We have become so divulged in that. Employers were abusive because it was okay to do so. It is not anymore. COVID kicked that door open. You can disagree with that if you'd like. Disagree with it all you want. But when you try to fire somebody because they've taken 3 sick days, get ready for the wrongful termination lawsuit. Speaking is just, this is what it is, man. It's facts. You can hate it. You can be mad about it. You can talk trash about all of your employees and how much they're sick or whatever. But if they have doctor's notes and stuff like that, they are protected. And that is amazing. That's good news. Doctor's visits are expensive too. I've gone to the emergency room because I'm sick, because I don't currently have insurance. I've done it. It's expensive. Doctors are available. Urgent cares, all sorts of stuff. You're protected if you're sick now. Mental health days. This has become more of a thing the longer that I've been working as a millennial. Obviously not. I was born in 95, and it's the first couple times I saw somebody take days for mental health days, like especially pre-COVID. Even I was in the boat of like, you're just not feeling it today, so you're not coming in. That sucks. That screws over everybody. Yeah. It's not my job to always be concerned with your job. Again, there's like a Scott Seiss a skit. Again, he always uses IKEA as his frame of reference. But where he's like, I'm calling in sick today. And they're like, you need to find somebody to cover your shift. And he says, that's your job. Not always is it my job as the employee to call around. And let's square this up right now. If I call and I'm sick or I have some reason that I'm not coming into work, even if I send out a couple calls, right? Even if we have a work group text, hey, can everybody come in? Or can anybody come in and cover me? If everybody says no, I'm still not coming in. I still have a reason. And mental health days have become an acceptable reason. And this, again, will tread on the generation of people who were told that they could never take time off. It is okay for you to have a bad day and not work. Not every day. If you're depressed, like the average person at this point, I'm pretty sure almost everybody I know suffers from some sort of depression or anxiety. No, you can't take every day until your brain feels right. But if you're having a day where you're particularly in the dirt, working just might not be the solution, right? It's still hard to call and be like, hey, I just gotta take a mental health day. I can't do it. They're still gonna like pick at you. They're still gonna try to manipulate you, blackmail you, all this stuff. But it is acceptable for you to give a crap about your own mental health. And if you work for a company that doesn't give a crap about your physical or mental health, find one that does. Oh, John, that's really hard to just go find another job. Nope. It's not. It is not. When I was working for the brewery, they used to tell me all the time that it was really hard to find bodies to work. Okay, cool. So it's hard to find bodies that work, but everywhere is hiring, right? So if you work for a company right now that doesn't give a crap about your physical or mental health, there are plenty of places looking. Go find one that does give a crap about you. Because if you don't do that, if you accept that you have to stay in this place that doesn't give a crap about you, then you're saying it's okay. You're saying that you are content with a company not caring about you, and therefore you don't care about you. I'm sorry, if you hear that background noise, my kid is playing with his race cars, so it's kind of loud and rattly. Apologize if you hear that. You can't just let people take advantage of you and not care about you. Because like I said, that means you don't care about you if you're okay to accept that. Don't do that. Care about yourself. Care about your mental health. Care about your physical health. This is coming from somebody who used to not do either. Okay? If you were calling me because I called out and you were like, oh, you're screwing over the team, I'd go. I don't like feeling like I'm letting people down. But nowadays, I'm a little bit better at it because I need to care about me. And coming from somebody like me who suffered from crippling anxiety for almost a year. I mean, staying up all night, dreading, cold sweats. I used to have this just awful habit of just chronically having to sit in my bathroom with the shower running just so I could have white noise. I still do it every now and then. It's not as often as it was, but sometimes that anxiety hits and you just need to block it out. You need to block out the noise. And sometimes that noise is in your own head. So you just try to find solutions. You throw in earbuds. Like I said, for me it was the water sound. Just kicking on the shower and sitting on the edge of the tub and just the water's not even touching me. I just need the out. It's okay. Coming from somebody like me who did that for well over a year, who had and still has untreated depression because I don't have medical insurance and stuff like that, I have learned that it is okay to value my own mental health and to know when enough is enough. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Because in my last job, I hit a point that covers the ladder that we have talked about. In an ideal world, owners and employees should work symbiotically together. That's the first thing I said. When I got this last job, I was positive that I had found it. I had worked for the company twice, and the first time that I worked for the company, it wasn't there, and I knew what was missing, and I knew what the problem was, and it was best for me to go. And when I went to culinary school, and I learned a lot of good stuff during COVID. During the time when a lot of people did nothing, I tried to make the best of my time. And coming out of COVID, I went back to this company because I thought I knew how to make us work symbiotically. The gears needed to align. Everything needed to work. I thought I knew what it would do. But the reality was that not all jobs are democratic. And that no matter what I said, no matter what I brought to the table, it didn't mean that it mattered. Even in my position, I was the kitchen manager. I was in charge of my team. And I couldn't make base level decisions without having to run through a chain of 3 owners. And sometimes front of house staff that had nothing to do with what I was doing. The reality is that jobs are rarely democratic. And then, after I figured out that my opinion wasn't always going to matter, or rarely mattered, then you hit the overworked and underpaid spot. Where now they're asking me to do a bunch of extra stuff, to cover these events, to come in on days that were closed and do private events, stuff like that, when I only have 2, 3 other employees. And at one point, all of them were new. So now I'm pulling all this extra time, and they're taking away incentives. We used to get 2 shift beers. 2 shift beers, which meant at the end of your shift, you'd clock out, you got 2 free beers on the company because you earned them. In my time there, they took one of them away. They made it so we couldn't stay in the building longer than like a half hour. You couldn't, like, we had pinball tables, you couldn't just hang and just decompress. They wanted you out. They did everything possible to de-incentivize and make it feel less and less worth being there. I used to go in early, right? I'm the manager. So if I'm scheduled at 9, I'd go in at 8 because I want to make sure that my team is prepared, set to go. Nope, you can't hit this many hours. You can't schedule your team for this many hours. Everybody has to be under 40. You can't hit overtime. You can't be in the building too long. You can't be in the building too early. You can't be in the building too late. Overworked, underpaid, not listened to. They want you to cram everything in under 40 hours when you should be there 50. And when you're overworked and underpaid, which was step 3, you then start to hit stress. And stress will destroy a quality employee. That is what I said. Stress will destroy a quality employee. I stopped caring. I knew they couldn't fire me because they had nowhere to go. They had nobody to go to. They were having trouble finding me regular hourly employees. They're not just pulling in somebody to do what I do in the time that I do it. So I just coasted. Burnt out. But I'm getting paid. So I'll do my job. I'll show up when you want me to. I'll just suck it up. And then I started losing sleep. I started bringing it home. I have an amazing wife. I have a 4-year-old son. And I started bringing my baggage from work home, and it started to affect their lives. Because I was grumpy, angry, tired, depressed, full of anxiety about what the week was going to hold. I started letting it eat away at the foundation of what made me feel like a great employee. And then I quit. I don't mean I quit letting it affect me. I mean I quit. I'm not happy to say that I didn't give a notice. But I didn't. I didn't give it 2 weeks. I know that that's frowned upon. And if I could take back anything from that exchange, it would be that. But I hit a point where it was time. I hit a point where my physical health mattered. Where my mental health mattered. Because it was taking me away from the things that mattered. When I was working as much as I was working, as hard as I was working, as long as I was working, with the level of stress that I had, I was missing my son grow up. He's only 4, but I feel like I missed a lot of stuff that my wife, who was a stay-at-home mom at the time, she got to experience. She was very lucky in that. She got to see a lot of our son growing up. Being a stay-at-home parent is not easy. I've said it before. I will say it again. I am currently a stay-at-home parent. my wife went back to work, her and I tend to rotate who's working based on how hard we're working, what our mental health is at, stuff like that. So when I was in culinary school during COVID, she was working. Now, then out of COVID, I went back to work. My pay rate went up compared to what she got. So we swapped, and then I hit my breaking point, and we swapped again. We try to have a cohesive ecosystem with each other, which balances what each other can handle for as long as we can handle it. We're still paycheck to paycheck. It didn't change. Just whoever's working, it doesn't change that we're paycheck to paycheck. That's real life. Being a stay-at-home parent is hard. And my wife did it for a long time. The majority of my child's life, she has been a stay-at-home parent. She got to see a lot of awesome stuff. She also got to have a lot of rough days because she was at home dealing with a toddler. I had a lot of rough days because I was at work dealing with grown-ups who behave like toddlers. I hit my point. I don't even remember what it was. Things were coming down the pipe. I remember that, where they were telling me I had to schedule a specific way, that I couldn't do what I needed to do, that they wanted to make adjustments to the menu, they wanted to restructure the kitchen, they wanted to change the whole concept of the restaurant. And I felt like there wasn't going to be a better day. That the grass wasn't necessarily greener on the outside, but that it was alive because the grass in here was burnt. So I quit. On the spot. Done. And the moral of that story, the moral of the fueled tirade that I just went on, is that if you're an employer and you are not listening to the voices of the people that you hire, you're overworking them, you're putting time constraints, you're trying to fit 60 hours into 40. You're not paying them a livable wage. Livable is the key word. If I can't afford a one-bedroom apartment and bills, then I'm underpaid. If you're not listening to the voices, if you're overworking and you're cramming 60 hours into 40, if you're not paying your employees a livable wage, what I can guarantee you is they are stressing. And stress destroys the quality employee. And when they start to lose sleep, eventually they're going to stop. They're going to stop losing sleep. Because what they're going to learn is that they are indeed replaceable. I got replaced. I know I got replaced. I still talk to people at my previous job. I got replaced. And no matter who replaced me, I can tell you that I would never think that they would do the job that I would do. I've worked with a bunch of great people at that company who I thought could do my job. Did I think they could do my job as good as I could? No. But they replaced me, and that's fine. It is completely fine. If they lost any sleep over me, it was a day. And then they moved on. So again, if you're an employer who is not listening, who is overworking and underpaying and causing stress in the lives of your employees, they will break. And when they break, they will leave. And then you have nobody, at least briefly, until you find a newer, cheaper, budget, goodwill crew. You then have to retrain them from the ground up. I had to retrain a team 4 different times because the way that the structure of the restaurant was, ownership and their policies and all that stuff was forcing people out. They hired somebody while I worked there who they didn't even interview. They just looked at her resume and went, perfect. That's how you get not quality employees. Because I can pad a resume right now. I can fake a resume right now. you're doing all that, if you're doing all the things that I just mentioned, they will break. And when they break, they will leave, and then you start over. Starting over is okay every once in a while when you really, really need it. But starting over 4 times in 2 years, you should probably be asking yourself a different set of questions. Employees. This goes out to you. Employees who currently have a boss who is demanding, who is not paying you what you deserve, who isn't listening to your voice, to your opinion, to your ideas. Know your worth. If you're not being paid what you're worth, if you're not being valued as an employee, if your opinion isn't being heard, find some place that will do those things for you. Even if that means starting your own business. It's something I aspire to do. Start my own business. I'm not doing it at this moment. I don't have the capital and stuff like that. It obviously isn't an easy process to do those things. But know your worth. Find a place that will value you, or create a place that will value you. And if you're creating the place, value the people that are going to be on your team. Because they can leave. They can go find something else. Know your worth. Not just your worth to you, but to your family, to your kids, to your pets, to everything that matters in your life. If you have things that matter to you, going fishing every Sunday morning, know your worth and make sure that you find a place that is accepting of the things that keep you sane. We don't have forever. Humans aren't yet immortal. It is said, I have seen it said, heard it said, that the first person who will live forever is currently alive. I don't think it's going to be me. It would be cool if it was. But we don't have forever. So don't let toxic, abusive, degrading management styles and ownership styles wither and crack your life away at the foundation, to where you don't recognize you, to where you're not happy with who you are, and to where the people around you don't want to be around you anymore because you are toxic too, because you've adopted a toxic mentality. Don't do that. Know your worth. Know the worth of your time. Know the value of your time and efforts. I would have taken less money from almost any other company if they would have just done the things that the company that I had chosen to work for would have done. Know your worth. Find a place that treats you right, and I guarantee you your quality of life will change. When that alarm goes off, you should hit it and be curious about what adventure today holds, rather than dreadful of the nonsense that you're going to have to deal with. Because chances are, a lot of you are doing that right now. Your alarm is going off. You're like, oh, another day full of BS that I don't want to deal with. But I got to do it because I got to get that payday. Value yourself, value your time, value your energy, value your health, value your mental health. All of those things. And you will see a change. Find a passion project. This process is hard. What I'm doing right now is hard. Like I said, I missed 2 days this week. I was going to put one out on Wednesday. I was going to put one out on Thursday, and I just didn't do those. It was going to be this episode. It just would have been a previous day. And I just felt mentally not there. And I needed time so that I could deliver you guys a passion-filled project, which I feel like I've accomplished now that I've gotten the blood pressure up and I've vented about some stuff, but also trying to tell you guys that employers don't own the rights to your health, your mental health, your sanity, your bodily function, your health at all. Value yourself and know your worth, or nobody around you will. Please, please give a crap about you, or else the people around you won't. It starts with you. Demand that they do. Demand that they care. Because you can find opportunities elsewhere that will. That's what I'll say. With that said, that's the episode. That's the content for the day. Summary. I'll run it real quick, but I've said it 3 or 4 different times, right? In an ideal world, ownership, management, and employees work together symbiotically. The reality is, it's not always the case. And that can lead to people being overworked and underpaid. And those things lead to stress. And when it leads to stress, people start to lose sleep because they feel that this is what it is. But you are replaceable. So then you stop losing sleep and you start to make change. And you change for the sake of your own health and your own mental well-being. And that's what we talked about today. If you guys take anything away from this episode, take away that you just need to value yourself and your mental health and the health of the people around you that you love and care about. Because if you let corporate businesses, mom and pops, whatever you work for, if you let the people above you break away at your foundation, you're going to start to lose the people around you that care and that love you. They will leave. If you start to break yourself, you will see those around you who love you have to let go because you don't care about you. So why should they? Thank you, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry that kind of took a little bit of a dark turn, but I'm also not sorry because I feel like it was good for you guys to hear of a stressful situation that I had to go through. And I hope that if any of you out there are upper level management, owners, whatever, I hope that you take away from this a little bit of the step function, of the mental functionality that your hourly frontline employees feel. And how it breaks down. Because again, it can just break down. Thank you guys for tuning in. Last week's episode we had a lot of really good, had a lot of views. My weeks are up and down a lot of times, so thank you guys. Whoever checked out last week's episode, thank you. If you know somebody who would be interested in this episode, please feel free to share it. As always, please like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that like button. Follow and subscribe my channels. Here on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe. Share this with everybody you possibly can. Share this with your angry boss who's ruining your existence. So hopefully they strike a little common sense from what I'm saying. Share this with your neighbor who's having a stressful time with their job. Share this with your mom who's working too hard. Share this with your sick uncle because his generation just couldn't let their foot off the gas. Do it. Share it with everybody you possibly can. And again, like, follow, share, subscribe. Check out my TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Check them all out. We're going to end this thing, as always, with a quote of the day. And the quote of the day is, would I rather be feared or loved? Easy. Both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. That quote's by Michael Scott on The Office, you guys. One of my favorite shows. As always, do more than just exist. Please be kind to one another. And come with me into the uncharted. Thanks, guys. See you later.